For me, divorce was a bit like getting hit by a train. You're standing there on the rails, you can see the train coming, and it seems so easy to avoid. All you've got to do is step to one side or the other, and everything's fine. But for some reason, you can't move. You're paralyzed because you're not in control of the situation. All you can do is stand there and watch that train get closer and closer. You can feel the vibration under your feet. You can hear it. Hell, you can even smell it coming. And as that locomotive begins to fill your field of vision, you know the inevitable lights out is about to happen. And there you are in that moment where it hits you. You are alone. Everything that you believed was true about your life is over. All of the values and priorities that you once held dear are meaningless. You are untethered. You are emotionally, psychologically, even physically in a state of, disbelief, shock, trauma. I think all those words would apply. It's very, very disorienting, to say the least. Walking these trails during that time was my touchstone, if you will. It gave me my consistency, my congruency. It allowed me to hear my own thoughts and come to terms with what was happening. And I remember, because it was she left in September, but it really kind of hit me in October of 2019, just before the pandemic hit. And I remember being very near where I am right this moment. And the trees had already started to lose their leaves. And I just remember kind of breaking down in that moment where I could not control myself. I just cried. There was no one around. I mean, it was a weekday. You know, on the weekends, these trails can get busy, but during the week, very rarely do I come across anybody. So I had complete privacy in the public with all these trees around. And I had a good 5-minute just cry. Just let myself wallow in it. Just went as deep into that pain as I could stand. And then I said, okay, now you got to move forward. And I started to draw upon all of the, psychology and philosophy and spirituality that I had ever read in my life, and realized that this was the time when I needed to pull it together. And those resources that I had read or followed in some curious intellectual pursuit would now serve me really well. And they did. There were a handful of things that really, really made the difference. The first one is acceptance. And that's also probably the hardest one, because you've got to accept the unacceptable. You've got to learn that this new reality has different rules, it has different opportunities, and you've got to find your place in it. Seeing your wife as something other than your wife. Seeing your home as something other than your home. I was kind of fortunate in that I had gone through a number of major life events just prior to her leaving. I don't know if that's fortunate or not. So I had changed careers. I had quit my job and sold the house that I thought would be my house for the rest of my life. So that was a benefit. And then she decided it was time to leave after a couple of years. So yeah, I went through a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. And acceptance played a big role in all of it. And it really did make a big difference. I think part of acceptance is understanding our attachment to things and how we give these things meaning. And I think that's, it gets kind of deep. I know it may be tough for some people to really wrap their brains around. But, I mean, we live our lives subjectively, from the inside out. So nothing in the world has meaning except that we give it meaning. If I say car to you, it has meaning that you give it. If I say Lamborghini, that even has a different meaning, but similar in some respects. If I now say it's your Lamborghini, well, that changes the meaning of it altogether. So, understanding how I was giving things meaning and how I was attached to those things was really, really valuable. And seeing that I could change the meaning I attached to things by simply changing my thoughts about them, and how I could change my level of attachment to things by simply understanding that everything in our world is transient. I mean, we're transient. We're going to die. Shelby and Jax, as much as I love them, they're going to die. So then the question becomes, do you not live your life because things are transient and you're going to lose them? Or do you live your life knowing that loss is part of the journey? You're going to have loss. And obviously the second answer is the only way you can live. You have to live knowing that loss is going to happen. Otherwise, you just never leave your house, you know? So losing the house, losing the job, losing the wife, these were all parts of a transition that was occurring in my life, and I began to see the pattern of it. And I had to sort of surrender to the idea that there was something bigger going on, whether that was because of some God force or something deep inside of me that was unconsciously or pushing me unconsciously through these steps. Whatever it was, I had to just sort of have faith that it was all going to be okay in the end. Plus, I always have enough faith in myself that, hell, I'll drive Uber if I have to. I'll deliver pizzas. I mean, I'll find a way, you know. I'm never going to be destitute. So I just went along with it. Okay, the next thing that I learned was appreciation. And my kids kind of taught me that because they were with me after she left. I have 3 kids. My son is much older. He's 10 years older than my daughters, and he's from a prior relationship. But he was there. You know, he was by my side. He was a great friend to me during that time. But my daughters, who were living with me, they were really the clincher. My oldest daughter is 24 now, so she would have been 19 at the time. And yeah, she really stepped up. And I could appreciate what she was doing. She was trying to fill in the gap that her mother left by helping out more around the house, being more attentive to her younger sister. Yeah, she just really stepped it up. And man, just knowing that she was there picking up the slack a little bit made a big difference. And I learned to really appreciate having them with me because it made my life a little bit easier. It gave me more congruency. Then, of course, Shelby and Jax, the dogs, you know, I can certainly appreciate them. They certainly were a big part of it as well, unknowingly giving me comfort just by being dumb dogs that hang out with you. And then the last piece of the puzzle, well, I guess the next piece of the puzzle, I'm not sure if it's the last one, but locus of control. Living your life from the inside out and knowing that you have the opportunity to control your reactions and responses to things that happen in the world. That things are going to happen. Shit happens. However, you don't have to let it dictate to you how you're going to experience any particular event. You have the ability to decide for yourself how you're going to respond to anything. You don't need to be a slave to your emotions. And knowing that I could pull that locus of control regarding this divorce and draw energy from it made it much, much easier. Now, it still took me a couple of years to really kind of put it behind me. Because the last piece, this is the last piece, is forgiveness. And the only way you know you've really forgiven somebody is when you no longer feel that anger or that resentment or whatever it was that required forgiving when you think about them. Anyway, so forgiveness is really a big part of it. And if you don't have forgiveness, yeah, you're carrying that anger around with you, and it's like a poison pill. You know, you swallow it every time you have that thought, and it's not going to do you any good. I really believe that when you have that kind of negativity in your body, in your head, it's going to make you sick. Sooner or later, you're going to get a cancer. Something bad's going to happen. So you got to forgive. You got to forgive. You got to forgive. And the way I forgave her was just having the awareness that she was taking steps that she thought were necessary for her to be as happy as possible in her life. You know, it's not my place to judge. It's her life. Like I said, the world that we live in is subjective. I can't judge your life or anyone else's life because I don't know what your experience is. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's going on in your head. And I certainly don't know what's going on in my ex-wife's head. But I could understand that people do things so that they can feel a little happier. Even things that are irrational and are ill-advised. And I think that's what she did. She took some irrational, ill-advised steps, and I think she regrets it a lot right now. But nevertheless, it happened. So as of now, I've got a great relationship with my ex-wife. She calls on me as a resource to help her get through all of her trials and tribulations, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to be her friend. But I would never let her back into my life as a romantic partner simply because she was not trustworthy. I mean, her behavior was her behavior was indicative of who she is. And I think you got to forgive people, but you can't let them off the hook. You have to change the parameters of the relationship based on the behavior. So although I no longer am angry at her and I no longer resent her, and I certainly even have some compassion and pity for her, I never trust her again. Not like that. I mean, once I've handed over my I want to say, my trust and my commitment to her. Once I had given her my commitment, which comes with trust and love and loyalty and all of those things, and she pushes it back and says she doesn't want it anymore, well, then there's no point in giving it twice to the same person. At least that's my opinion. So the reason I wanted to go through this is because I know that a lot of guys are going through some very difficult times with a divorce. And any guy that's been through it has a story similar to mine, where you've got to deal with that oncoming train and you just got to take it straight on. And from that point forward, you've got to create a new reality for yourself. And it's a great opportunity creating this new reality. But in order for it to be all that it can be, you've got to make the most of what this experience has to offer. You see, I never would have divorced my wife. So I owe her a debt of gratitude in a way, because I'm a far better man today than I was 5 years ago. And if we had not divorced, I would not have had the opportunity to become the man that I am now. I'm happier, I'm more whole as a person, more confident, more capable, and I enjoy my life so much more. And I enjoy my life so much more than I did 5 years ago. Seeing that train coming for nearly a decade, hearing it, feeling it, knowing it was coming, creates a level of stress that is just under the surface all the time, and it affects everything that you do. And once that train hits, although it's painful, it brings an enormous amount of relief. Once it's gone, once it's done, once it's over, the relief of no longer having to dread that oncoming divorce. The next step is just removing the darkness of that divorce from your sight and just seeing where the light is and finding the joy that is all around you, whether it's in the relationships you have with your kids or other family members, or the things that you do, the opportunities that now open up to you. I mean, there's just a whole world of things that you can do that are novel, that you would not have been available to you if that relationship had remained in place. So, yeah, although the divorce was hard and it was painful and there was a lot of upheaval, it was by far the best thing that's happened to me since, like I said, my kids were born. So if you're going through it right now, stay the course. Go deep. Find that lesson that's in this, because it's going to propel you to the next level. It's going to make you a better man, and you're going to look back on this one day and you're going to be glad that it happened. And if you can reach that point, then you're set. You're set. All right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.